Hey guys, how's it going? I'm Sydney from PhoneDog.com, and we are live on Ustream, broadcasting, and I have a cold. I don't know if you can tell that. It's, I don't know, maybe not a cold, maybe just like a sinus congestion or something, so, wow, like what a week, but also just so you know, if I sound a little weird, or if I don't make complete sense this week, it's because I'm not entirely all here, but I'm okay. I think we should get through this. But yeah, like what a week. Just talk about drama rama. There was, of course, the AT&T, T-Mobile, FCC, I can't believe you just did that, argument. And then this whole thing with carrier IQ comes out. And so anyway, we're going to talk about all of that. I think we're going to start with the Galaxy Nexus because I want to start with some good news before we get on to the drama, because I was like, I've been reading about this, all week, and then, I refresh myself on Thursdays and Fridays, and I get all of my notes together, and there's like so much to read, and there's so much that happened, and it's a lot of, drama because, the thing with AT&T and T-Mobile, or, in the FCC, is like, it's emotions. Like, they got mad, and then so they send out this report, and then the FCC they're like, they feel insulted, and so they fire back, and so it's not even like new. Well, it's news, but it's not even like, this is the fun and this is hot. It's not even that stuff. It's just drama. But anyway, we're gonna start with the Galaxy Nexus, because it's a big deal too. And we have tons of coverage. We have the unboxing, we have an HD video sample, first impressions. Aaron is the one that covered this, by the way. First impressions, and then a video review, of course. It's a two-part video review. And in the video review, Aaron talks about, like, for the consumer, how easy is it for a consumer to to pick up and to use. Obviously, we're all Android, we're tech enthusiasts, and so we know all about all these different operating systems. We know how to use all of them, but I think we're getting to a point now, or at least Android is, iOS, that's kind of like been its claim to fame, I guess, that it's easy for everyone to figure out. And so Android, that's really what Google is really trying to push right now, is excuse me, to make this easy for the average consumer to pick up, to learn, and to use. And so he talked about that in the review, in the second part of the review. And then, throughout the whole thing, he's talking about basically how the phone performs. I thought it was interesting that, basically the Nexus line has always, well, it's Google's flagship phone. So, being tech enthusiasts, we know, okay, this is the phone that is supposed to have the best specs. The Galaxy S last year it kind of was a letdown, but it's supposed to have the best specs. It's a flagship phone. It has the latest version, no bloatware, no skins. This is like the ultimate, Google Android device. And so, in a lot of ways, it's the one that we look forward to the most, because, we want that pure Android experience because it's so awesome. But then at the same time, Google has to appeal to, like I was saying, the average consumer, and, the average consumer far outnumbers tech enthusiasts, I would imagine. And so, they have to appeal to the average consumer and make it appealing to them, and then appealing to us. So, it's kind of like this battle. They're sort of torn between, who should they really focus on and appeal to. And I thought it was interesting, in Aaron's first impressions article, he said that he kind of felt like Google had really alienated both groups, while trying to please both of them. Google kind of alienated both of them. And he mentioned a couple of things. For example, to start with, the operating system itself, Android, this is version 4.0, Ice Cream Sandwich. For tech enthusiasts like us, it's like a snap. It's going to be very easy to figure out because we already know Android. We love it. And on top of that, we've watched like a million videos on Ice Cream Sandwich, but he kind of felt like it was a little less intuitive than it should have been. And so maybe in that way, it won't be as easy for, your mom or your sister or, someone else to just pick it up and use it. So, kind of had alienated them in that sense. But then on the other hand, he was also surprised that it shipped with a 5 megapixel camera and that Google decided to use the TI OMAP processor. And we'll start with the camera. Obviously, we know that megapixels are not everything. I mean, it also has to do with lens quality, and several other factors. And so, but, the point is that from the consumer perception, you see a phone with a 5 megapixel camera and then you see a phone with an 8 megapixel camera. And to someone who, doesn't follow technology, doesn't know, that megapixels don't account for everything, that, they're going to be like, oh, well, I mean, why just get the phone with the 8 megapixel camera? And then the same thing with the TI OMAP processor. We all have strong opinions on the best processor out there, the Snapdragon, or the Exynos processor is really in the glory days right now. It's a processor that everybody loves. Whereas the TI, the OMAP processor from Texas Instruments, it kind of gets a bad rap. And so it's kind of like, why they decided to go with the TI OMAP processor when that's kind of alienating the tech enthusiast who would probably rather have the Exynos processor. So it's like, it's an awesome phone, obviously, but I thought it was interesting that he kind of mentioned that. All of that aside, will any of that make any difference? Probably not. And I think you probably noticed that, whenever I'm reading comments, and just me personally, yeah, I would love to have the Galaxy Nexus. I don't care if it has a TI OMAP processor or an Exynos processor. I mean, either way, it's going to be awesome. And different reviews have said that, there might be lag here and there, but I think overall, it is, the overall experience is going to be amazing. So, will it alienate people? I don't really know. I mean, I think at this point, Android enthusiasts are Android enthusiasts, and they're going to buy it. Tech enthusiasts, we know a good phone when we see it, and the Galaxy Nexus is a good phone. And then for, consumer perception, well, it's like, Android, it has the biggest market share, and so people now know Android is boss. It's, the best. If you don't like iOS, it's the best alternative, and in a lot of ways it's better than iOS. So I don't know, it's not even in the US quite yet. I mean, you can get it in the US, but it's not available on a carrier actually yet. I think the rumored release date, we saw a date from was it Best Buy, and they apparently, they're in their system, it's listed as coming December 11th, which is like a week. Is that a week away? What is today? Today's the 2nd. So yeah, it's about a week, a little over a week. But anyway, yeah, it's not in the US yet. So, obviously we can't tell what people are going to think about it, but you can watch the review, and basically Ice Cream Sandwich is awesome. And I love the look of Ice Cream Sandwich. I think, we've talked about this before, how I said that, when we first started seeing pictures of Ice Cream Sandwich, I didn't really like it that much. It was basically like honeycomb on a phone, and I personally never really warmed up to honeycomb. I preferred, gingerbread and all the previous versions. And so I was like, if it's just honeycomb on a phone, I don't really like honeycomb, but then once we saw more updated pictures and we actually saw the Galaxy Nexus and what Ice Cream Sandwich actually looks like, I do really like it. It's still Android-y. It still kind of has that Android robotic feel to it, but I think the aesthetics, the transitions, the graphics, the fonts, just the little bitty details that they really spend a lot of time in, and for example, whenever you like the notification bar, when you drag it down, it's the line and it has, I think it's like a circle or something, but just, it's the little shapes and the little details that they didn't just say, all right, let's have a square with some dots and crap. They actually thought about, how can we make this little bar look pretty? And then they thought about it and they made it look pretty. So to me, it's the little things like that that just really make it look a whole lot more appealing visually. And I think it's like, other people have said in the past that Android kind of looks like a beta operating system because it's it's like a window with the widgets, and then you have the app drawer, and then they just kind of scroll in a grid. And there was like just some corners here and there that look slightly unfinished, but I think Ice Cream Sandwich has a lot more polish. With the multitasking interface, you can swipe them across, they show up as windows. The app drawer kind of has some different transitions, some different effects. You can slide over to see the widgets. I think it looks just a whole lot more polished and finished. So I'm really excited, and I think probably the feature that I most love, and this is a totally random feature, but I love that you can resize the widgets, because that was something that I always wanted to have in Android. And of course, with launchers like Launcher Pro, you can resize the widgets, but in just stock Android, it wasn't something that you could do. And so I loved when they added that feature to Honeycomb, and I'm really happy that they have included that feature with Ice Cream Sandwich, because I think it just makes, customization is great with wallpapers and launchers with the dock and the unlock screen and widgets. I think all of that is great, but if you have all these widgets on your home screen, but yet what if I need that to be smaller, or I don't like that size, or I'd rather have it look this way? To me, I think that's a really nice feature to have, and maybe I'm like overblowing it because I'm totally excited about it, but to me, I think it's kind of a big deal. So anyway, you can watch the review, and he also has a gallery up on PhoneDog, and it has like 10 or 15 pictures or something. So if you just can't get enough, you can go look at the gallery. I'm really excited. Originally, we have 2 unboxings actually. Aaron has an unboxing, and Cam from Today's iPhone, he got the phone before Aaron got it, so he also posted an unboxing. So if you want to see like from the point of view of an iPhone user, it's kind of interesting. And then he also does a couple of comparisons with the iPhone, and does a couple of like speed tests and web browser tests and things like that. So that's kind of interesting to see too. Is this the phone? Can the Galaxy Nexus compete with the iPhone? Definitely, and in a lot of ways, I think it's better. I've seen a couple of comparison videos, like just phone to phone comparing them, and in a lot of ways, yeah, the Galaxy Nexus is much better. I think probably the only definite way that the iPhone is better, outside of like personal preference, because obviously not everyone's gonna like Android, just like not everyone likes iOS for no particular reason than just they don't like it. I think the only definite advantage that the iPhone really had was in the camera department, and I've seen a couple of like sample videos with the Galaxy Nexus and with the iPhone 4S, and the Galaxy Nexus, it was a little disappointing. The audio quality was excellent, and the video quality was great. It was still good, but it was a little disappointing. And then I think most people in like editors that have done reviews and that have actually compared the cameras from an unbiased point of view, I think most of them also agree that the iPhone has a slightly better camera. But overall, still, this is like, it's the biggest Android phone of the year, and it's nice. Unlike last year where the Galaxy S was like kind of a disappointment, this one is actually probably, one of the best phones out there. So it's pretty cool. And I think that is it with the Galaxy Nexus. I want to move on because we have 3 major topics to talk about. And, amazingly, like the Galaxy Nexus was going to be the biggest news. But then like this other stuff happened. And so I don't even want to spend too much time on the Galaxy Nexus because I want to get on to everything else. By the way, if you're just joining us, I have a cold in case you haven't noticed. So if stuff comes out of my mouth that doesn't make sense, it's just because my brain is sort of like not here. So anyway, let us move on to let's talk about AT&T and the FCC, because they got into it this week. And it was just like every day it was like these little bitty things, and then all of a sudden it just blew up, and it was just huge. So first we heard that AT&T and Deutsche Telekom, who's T-Mobile's partner, or not T-Mobile's partner, T-Mobile's parent, the parent company, they had announced that they were going to withdraw their application from the FCC, for the merger, and they wanted to, work out a couple of things, and then they would resubmit it. And so we were like, uh-oh, is it dead? The merger, it might be dead. And then. So, then that happened, and then we weren't sure if the FCC was going to allow them to withdraw, but, that was what we heard. They were going to withdraw it. And then AT&T said they might be willing to divest up to 40% of T-Mobile's assets. Just, give it to somebody else. That way the FCC and the Department of Justice, they'll see like, okay, we're going to share some of this, so don't worry, we're not going to, hog everything, kind of just to keep the FCC happy. Then we heard they were going to sell that to Leap Wireless. I'm kind of just recapping everything right here. And so then we got the big news that, okay, AT&T is going to withdraw the application. Is the FCC going to allow it? We got the news that, yes, the FCC is going to allow AT&T to withdraw the application. But at the same time, the FCC released a huge report basically slamming the merger and explaining why they didn't think it was a good idea, why it was, bad for, the economy, jobs, and competition and all of that. It was a little odd. I mean, obviously we all know that there's a lot of people that are against it, and we know that the FCC and the Department of Justice, they kind of have some doubts as to whether or not this is a good idea. But, it's a court case, it's a process. We figured they would go through the process and they would make a decision. For them to just all of a sudden release this report that was, not asked for and not part of protocol. I mean, that's not part of the typical procedure. They just randomly released it. It was a little odd, and I think it caught a lot of people off guard, and it certainly caught AT&T off guard, because AT&T is like, whoa, okay, we submitted an application. This is supposed to be handled. There's a process, there's procedure that you're supposed to follow. You don't just randomly go and release some report saying how you don't approve, and AT&T got really upset. And so that's what we're going to talk about, because it's interesting to look at, from the point of view of the FCC, because up until now, we've only heard them say, it's going to get rid of competition and it will get rid of jobs. That's all we've really heard them say. But we haven't heard a lot of insight into what they're actually thinking. And then at the same time, we've heard AT&T's reasons for, wanting to do it. But at the same time, not a whole lot of insight. This was the first time we really got a lot of insight into both groups, what they were thinking. And they basically disagree on every fundamental issue. But anyway, in the FCC's report, they said, basically what we've been hearing, that it would result in substantial job losses, and that any cost savings brought on by the deal's completion wouldn't be passed on to the consumer, meaning the prices would just go up. And the FCC also believed that AT&T would be able to upgrade its HSPA Plus network to LTE regardless of if the deal went through or not. Of course, it took them 100 pages to say all of that, but they, listed some, basically, what they thought about the merger. And so, anyway, AT&T got upset, and they filed this report, and I want to share with you guys just some of the details, because, and I've said this before, I don't entirely know if I agree with it or not, because I guess it's just because I feel like there's greed and corruption in every company, in every business, and in the government as well. And I'm not like being anti-America. I'm just saying, I think at some point, somewhere down the line, there's somebody involved in some organization that has bad motives. And so I think, for me personally, whenever I think about that, I think, okay, AT&T, probably they don't have the best motives or the most pure motives. But, I'm guessing probably in the FCC or somewhere else, there's somebody else that doesn't have, pure motives either. So, I don't know who's being honest and who's not being honest, because I don't work for the FCC. I don't work for AT&T. I don't know if AT&T has spectrum that they're hiding, if it's even possible to hide spectrum, but whatever, that's what people are saying. I don't work for these companies, so I don't really know what the truth is. I can only go by what I hear. And so I think because of that, I'm kind of I don't really want to form an opinion because I don't want to have the wrong opinion. But I think it's interesting that AT&T, they made a lot of arguments as to why T-Mobile needs the merger. And this is one thing that I kind of have a problem with after giving a whole speech about why I don't have an opinion. This is my opinion on it. But no, this is one thing that I do have a problem with, because I think it's clear that everyone knows T-Mobile is struggling. Deutsche Telekom has said T-Mobile needs to, be able to sustain itself. I think everyone knows that. But that doesn't necessarily mean they have to partner with AT&T. So AT&T makes this whole argument, but it's like, we already know that AT&T, we know that T-Mobile needs help, but it doesn't mean they have to partner with you. So anyway, but that was, AT&T said that it doesn't agree with the FCC's claims that T-Mobile is a disruptive force in the market because T-Mobile has been losing customers for the past 2 years and has no clear path to LTE. Basically saying, how they can help T-Mobile. So, but here's another interesting point of view from the report, and this was written by Jim, and I know I'm not going to pronounce his last name correctly, Sissoni, perhaps, maybe that's how you pronounce it, who is the Senior Executive Vice President of External and Legislative Affairs for AT&T. Whenever talking about spectrum, the FCC says, well, AT&T, you don't need spectrum, and we think that even if you didn't partner with T-Mobile, that you could still build out your LTE network. And so AT&T comes back and says, the FCC has released several reports proving that there is a spectrum crisis. AT&T says that the FCC has made a national issue of the spectrum crisis and has made addressing this shortage the basis of its request for incentive auction authority. So basically, the FCC has made this huge deal about the spectrum shortage and how they need the government to free up more spectrum to, auction off to people. And then AT&T says, yet the report barely mentions any spectrum issue, much less the spectrum crisis previously identified by the FCC, although that is the primary reason driving AT&T's need for this merger. In addition, the report claims the record is silent with respect to capacity constraints faced by T-Mobile, even though Deutsche Telekom submitted a sworn declaration explaining those constraints. In short, the report's authors find this evidence inconvenient and simply claim it does not exist. So, AT&T is basically, calling out the FCC for saying, okay, there's a huge spectrum issue. We need to, figure out how to, get some more spectrum and make this work. And yet when AT&T was trying to, work in accordance with that and kind of, build more spectrum to make things better, then the FCC is like, oh, no, you don't need more spectrum. And AT&T is like, you just said there's a spectrum shortage. And so I think AT&T's point is, okay, where else are we supposed to get this spectrum since there's a shortage and additional spectrum hasn't been auctioned off yet? You talk about that, and yet where are we supposed to get additional spectrum if it's not out there? The only way to do that is to, partner with somebody who also has spectrum. I thought it was also interesting that the FCC claimed that the merger would result in an increase in spectrum concentration which would basically, get rid of competition because they would have all of the spectrum. But Jim from AT&T goes on to say this is simply inaccurate based on the FCC's own published data, which clearly shows that Sprint Clearwire has more spectrum today than the combined company would have post-merger. So, AT&T is making the claim that the FCC is ignoring facts and basically just, coming up with just speculation to prove why they don't think it's a good idea. Like when the FCC said, well, we think that you can build out your LTE network without partnering with T-Mobile. AT&T says that's purely speculation. I mean, it's possible, but you don't know that. We don't know that we could or that we couldn't. It's purely speculation. So there's that. AT&T is calling them out and saying that they were being biased or one-sided, saying that, they had already made up their mind even before they filed this request, and so the FCC was being unfair. But then on the other hand, you have, if you read the report from the FCC, which I haven't read all of it, I've only read parts of it, but if you read the report, the FCC... they don't simply say, AT&T, you don't need more spectrum. You can do this without additional spectrum. And, we don't think you're right and blah, blah, blah. What they actually say is, I'm going to read it. Due to these constraints, the spectrum constraints, we find it more plausible that a spectrum-constrained firm would maximize deployment of more spectrally efficient LTE rather than limit it. So they're not saying, you don't get any more spectrum and, without that you're screwed and we know it, ha ha. They're saying, we think that if you really put more time and energy into creating more spectrally efficient LTE, that you actually could do it. And maybe it would be more difficult and maybe it would take, more work, but it would be more efficient. And we think that would be better than just, giving you more spectrum so you can just use it up. And that's something that, again, we've talked about in the past because, this whole problem with data and spectrum has slowly been building, and everyone's always said the government needs to auction off more spectrum, we need more spectrum, when in reality there are more spectrally efficient technologies out there. They just haven't been researched or used, very much by different companies. Whereas, if they were, they would be able to do a lot more with the spectrum they have, and they might not need any more. Now, again, to be fair, going back to AT&T side of it, the FCC doesn't consider the future of when and if or when AT&T will eventually need more spectrum and how that's going to come about. So, eventually AT&T is going to need more spectrum, and, the problem is going to come up again. And so it's like, okay, we can use more spectrally efficient technologies, but eventually in the future, we are going to need more spectrum. And so, anyway, that's kind of just a quick run through of the drama. AT&T also talked about jobs. And of course, this is, whether you agree with it or not. AT&T has continuously said, we will not fire call center employees of T-Mobile or AT&T if the merger goes through. We will bring in 5,000 more jobs. We won't get rid of jobs. AT&T has continuously said that. That's kind of one of those things of like whether or not you agree with it. So I think it's kind of interesting that the FCC says that the merger would get rid of jobs, but then AT&T brings out, well, you're doing something, you're trying to expand, wireless broadband access to, several more communities and, millions of people, and you're saying that's going to create 500,000 jobs, but whenever we're trying to do basically exactly the same thing, except on a larger scale, you're saying it's going to get rid of jobs. So the logic there doesn't really make sense. It's interesting, if you haven't read the report, Read it. It's 100 pages. I don't know. Maybe if you don't want to read 100 pages, you can. We have a couple of articles on PhoneDog and also on T-Mo News where we summarize, basically what the FCC is saying. And then also if you want to read the response from AT&T, it's very fiery. And I think it shows that, AT&T is really serious about it, which kind of makes me think, okay, well, maybe this is a big deal. I mean, maybe they really do need this spectrum, but it's a lot of drama, and now we're hearing from the Wall Street Journal that AT&T, even if the merger doesn't go through, if it doesn't get approved, that they may look into forming their own joint venture to pool their network resources. So even if they can't merge, maybe they can just become partners and still, be able to use some of the same resources. So they have like a plan B, which is, again, shows me that it's serious. So, maybe they do need the spectrum. But like I said, I'm reading all of it, and I'm keeping up with it, and I form opinions, and then I read something else from the other side, and I kind of like get a more balanced view of it, and then I read a lot of comments from people to see what they think, and so it's like I go back and forth, and like I said in the beginning, I just don't think that either side is completely pure, because there's always greed and corruption in every organization, and so it's like, how am I supposed to know, who's telling the truth and who's not? So I would rather just read all about it and have, at least what's going on, and then I guess in the end, you just trust that the best decision is made. That's kind of where we're limited, I guess. We don't have a whole lot of control over it. But I know a lot of T-Mobile customers are upset because T-Mobile has really good prices and AT&T doesn't. So they're thinking, well, if AT&T buys us, then our prices are going to go up. We're going to have tiered data. Our phones are going to suck because AT&T with smartphones, AT&T has not had the best lineup. But, in AT&T's defense, it's because they had not in their defense, but just to explain, it's because they had the iPhone, so they didn't see a need to have anything else. And so now they're like just starting to really come out with some great devices, whereas T-Mobile never had the iPhone. So yeah, they always had like some of the best Android devices because they had to in order to compete. So I don't think phone selection will be... I don't think it's going to all of a sudden suck, since AT&T's lineup has historically sucked. Although it will mean, maybe less options, because if you think about, go from 2 carriers to 1 carrier, so, maybe less options there. But anyway, so that's the drama, and it's not even over yet, because that was just a report. This wasn't even like a decision. This was just like some report that the FCC randomly, released, and it doesn't. I mean, it kind of has something to do with the whole with the procedure, of whether or not the merger will go through, because it tells us what they're thinking. But it's not like a decision. It was just sort of a report, and it just blew up. And so this isn't even the biggest thing that could happen in the next couple of weeks. So. AT&T is going to resubmit another what's the word I'm looking for? Application. Maybe try to change some things to make the FCC happy. But anyway, let's talk about carrier IQ, because this is another, again, drama just like everywhere. And carrier IQ. It started when this security researcher, oh my goodness, what's his name? His name is, I forgot what his name it is, and I don't have it in my notes because I'm an idiot. There it is, Trevor Eckhart. He's a security researcher, and he found out that this app for this thing on his phone, Carrier IQ, was tracking like basically everything he did. And there's videos on YouTube if you want to watch it, and he he has his phone hooked up to a computer so you can see what Carrier IQ is recording. And it's like when he pushes the home button, because it's an Android device, when he pushes the home button, it records, the code that he did that. When he pushes the L or dials a number, it records every keystroke, everything. When he turns up the volume, it recorded everything. And so we were like, whoa, that's what? Like, hello. I mean, it kind of came out of nowhere, and no one really knew about Carrier IQ. They didn't know what they were using this information for. They had access to text messages, keystrokes, telephone calls, tracking your location. Basically, everything you do with your phone, Carrier IQ can record it. And so, anyway, it just blew up. And so we're kind of finding out exactly what this is. And Carrier IQ has explained, this is their explanation, that the software has the ability to record nearly every action you perform with your phone, but they don't actually log that data. They don't log all of the data. In fact, the only data that is recorded or transmitted somewhere is decided by the carriers who are their clients. So it's like, it's not Carrier IQ who is tracking that information. Well, it is them, but they're doing it because Sprint told them to do so, and AT&T said to do so, and Verizon and T-Mobile. And so they track the information, and then whatever Sprint wants to know, they send it to Sprint, or whatever AT&T wants to know, they send it to AT&T. And so Carrier IQ says, all of that information is available to them, but they don't actually log all of that information. The only information they log is what the carrier wants to know in order to assess problems with the device, battery performance. If you call technical support, why did you call? Apps that are causing problems. Basically just to figure out if there's something wrong with your device, how to make it better, what are people using their phones for. They use it, to formulate ideas and statistics on that. And it's the carriers who get that information. They don't get all of the information from your phone, only what they want, and then they use it for their own research and studies. I'm going to have to take a drink. Hold on. So, basically Carrier IQ is saying, we're not just randomly logging every single thing you do with your phone and then keeping it in this database and selling it to spies and, Russia or whatever. Not that Russia is the bad guy, but, but anyway. They said we're not just doing that. We work for the carriers. They say, okay, you know what? We've had a lot of people calling in because they say that their battery is draining really quickly. Can you give us any information that you get from phones about battery performance? And Carrier IQ says, sure, we'll do that. So they pulled that information from your phone and they record that information. Now, do you believe that? I don't know. Should we believe that? Who knows? Again, it's like they're logging all of this information. They could do whatever they want with it. And of course, it's being looked into by the government. But we've had statements from everybody, Sprint, HTC, Verizon, Apple, AT&T, Microsoft, HTC again. HTC was they really want to make sure we're not doing anything bad. But the carriers have all said, yes, we use this, but we use it to understand what problems customers are having with our network or devices so we can take action to improve service quality. That's basically what the carrier said. And then HTC, they've said, it's not our fault, it's Sprint or Verizon, so don't blame us. Apple said, we're not using that. We were using it, but we stopped using it with iOS 5. It's gone. Microsoft has said Windows phones do not use Carrier IQ, so you don't have to worry about that. Anyway, it's being looked into, and I think the main problem here is that there's not a whole lot of transparency. It's like I said earlier, yeah, they say, we have access to all of this information, but we only log a certain amount of it. We only log certain pieces of it, and it's used for the carrier so they can make your experience better. That's what they say, but I mean, it's like you could do whatever you want with that, and who would know? I mean, we would never know. And so, people are really up in arms because privacy is a big deal. I mean, it's, the amendments and freeness of speech and all that, and so they want to make sure that, and then you have wiretapping laws, and obviously they're not using this, to spy on us, to, for terrorist attack, but I mean, the fact is that that information is available, and, is it right for a company to have that kind of information available? And, personally, I'm like, if they're using it to make my experience better, then yeah, I want them to do that. I want them to make the service quality better. I want them to be able to fix problems. I want them to see, okay, what are people using their phones for so that we can improve those areas of the experience. I want carriers to be able to do that because that means overall a better experience, and we all want that. But at the same time, I don't like the fact that, somebody can read all of my text messages or my pictures or, whatever. And, not that there's anything bad in them, but it's like, it's a little awkward, and imagine like if a perfect stranger just got your phone and started reading everything. I mean, it's a little weird, you're just not really comfortable with that. So, there's the line there, and, there's a balance that you have to find. And, of course, some people would just say, no, I don't want them to see any of it, and it's wrong, and stop tracking me. But then, me, I'm like, I do want them to make my performance better. I just, I don't know if I can trust them. And, maybe it's not even them. Maybe Carrier IQ is fine. They're just a company, and they're just doing their job. They don't use it for anything bad. But if it's being transmitted to them, that means it's like out there. And does that mean that anybody could get it? I know I'm going all like, conspiracy theory and, doomsday 2012, but, it's just people start worrying about those things, and, we're probably blowing it out of proportion, but that's what you immediately think of. Okay, they may not be using it for anything bad, but it's out there, and who else can get to it, by whatever means, and what are they going to use it for? So, personally, I don't know. I'm just, it's being looked into by the government, so they'll find out if it's actually being used for the wrong thing. But it's kind of, it's dangerous. It's interesting that companies even get into that business anyway, because, like Carrier IQ knows, they now know that it's only a matter of time before someone sues them and they're going to be out millions of dollars, whether they're doing something wrong or not. It's like, it's an inevitability. And so, it's definitely dangerous. And so, I don't know, people have been really upset about that, but, just so you know, it is out there. There are ways to disable it, that you can look up, and but yeah. So Microsoft said that Windows Phone do not use Carrier IQ. So if you have a Windows Phone device, you don't have to worry about it. If you're one of the 1% or 6%, I don't know if you guys took a look at the Neilsen numbers, but they're totally. This is like off topic, and we're done with the Carrier IQ now. But just as I was talking about Windows Phone, I want to show you guys the Neilsen numbers for smartphone operating system distribution. So here's the chart, and obviously it shows, Android is in the lead. We all knew that, 42.8%, and then it shows the different manufacturers. So you have HTC making Android devices, Motorola, blah blah. You have Apple making Apple devices, obviously. But anyway, if you go over to Windows Mobile / Windows Phone 7. That's the first one that you're going to see, and it says 6.1%. So you're like, wow, that's up from like 1%. But then you can see of the manufacturers, there's Samsung and HTC. So you're like, all right, that makes sense. But then HP Palm, it's like, why is HP Palm listed as a manufacturer for Windows Phone? And then but then if you go on farther down the line, you have Windows Phone listed again. And And so this was just kind of confusing to me. And maybe somebody can explain it to me and I'm just missing something. You know, like I said, I haven't completely been all here since I have a cold. But to me, it seemed like there was something that Neilsen kind of missed here, or maybe didn't list accurately, because I was a little confused by that. And again, feel free to correct me, because I know you all will. Anyway, so that was just kind of an interesting, kind of funny thing. But yeah, like I said, we're done with the carrier IQ, and yeah, government's looking into it, so we'll see if they're actually breaking any laws. It's time for the open Q&A, and I had so much more that I wanted to talk about, but we just don't have enough time. But if you want to ask me about, you know, like I was going to talk about the Australian ban on the Galaxy Tab, as well as the Droid 4 and phones getting ice cream sandwich. So if you want to ask me about that, you can, because I have information on it. I just didn't get a chance to talk about it. So, yeah, and also, if you're watching this on YouTube, which I completely forgot to let you guys know in the beginning, YouTube viewers, there's a timeline in the description. By now, you already know this, and so it's pointless. I should have said this in the beginning, but there is a timeline if you need it. But also, on YouTube, if you have a question, you can ask me a question. I read those comments, so I'll try to answer them. If I can, I don't get to all of them. But for now, on Ustream, if you have any questions, just ask, and I'll try to answer. If you're watching this on Facebook, I'll be checking Facebook. I don't see anybody there right now, but I'll check it. Okay. Sydney, do you think ice cream sandwich will look good with things like TouchWiz on top? You know, yeah, I mean, I like TouchWiz. TouchWiz is my favorite UI, and you know, even before, like, TouchWiz 4.0 has been a lot more popular than previous versions of TouchWiz. I think TouchWiz used to be, like, the most hated UI out there, and I loved TouchWiz. Or maybe Blur was the most hated, but TouchWiz was pretty low, and I've always loved TouchWiz, so I think it'll be different in terms of, you know, visually. It's not going to look the same, at least I'd hope not, because that would be... You know, this is a huge step for Android, and you want to make sure that it stands out. So hopefully they won't make it look exactly the same as 2.3. Yeah, I think it'll look good. And, you know, the manufacturers, they're not just going to throw it together and make it look ugly. They'll make sure that it looks good. I just hope that they, you know, preserve all of the huge visual aspects of ice cream sandwich. I forgot to plug in my my laptop to the charger before I started, and now my battery is about to die. Let me get the charger. Okay. Okay. Question. Sydney, is it normal that you don't get good service in big stores and malls? Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people have that problem, you know, no matter what carrier. Woo. Interesting comment. I think that ice cream sandwich will look quite good with TouchWiz, but not too drastic changes. Yeah, that's what I was saying. I mean, I think obviously they're going to customize it. I just hope that it still looks like ice cream sandwich, because I do really like the look of ice cream sandwich. I think it looks awesome. And there's just so many little things that I love about it. So yeah, I hope that they still keep that together. Sydney, I'm moving to Texas. Awesome. That's funny because I absolutely love Tesco's in England. I guess that was referring to a different conversation. Sydney, do you think the Milestone and the Droid 1 will get ice cream sandwich in the UK? Probably not. Stock ice cream sandwich doesn't need any custom UIs. Okay. When is the Samsung Note coming to the US? I think we have a couple of rumored dates for that, but I don't think we have anything solid just yet. Oh, we have an unboxing of the LG Nitro up on phonedog.com, so you can watch that. New YouTube layout, by the way. I completely forgot about that. I was going to talk about that too. I wasn't really, that was a lie. I wanted to talk about it, but I was like, that's not related to cell phones at all. I'm like, oh, not comfortable and stuff. Okay, whatever. Yeah, a new YouTube layout, and I think it looks pretty cool. I mean, obviously, it's really different, and so anytime you change stuff, people get really upset. They don't like change. People are completely pissed off about the new YouTube layout, and I'm like, I think it looks awesome. I mean, yeah, it's different, obviously. I mean, you can't keep it the same forever. You know, that doesn't make any sense. But I think it looks great. The only thing I wish, I love everything, I love it all. The only thing I wish that they will add is I want to be able to delete videos that I've watched from that subscription timeline. Because now it's like I watch it and then I come back and it's still there. And it's like, I want it to go away because it's taking up a slot, you know. Okay, quick question. Do you like the new YouTube layout? Oh, I was just talking about that. Sydney, is it normal? Okay. Is it normal for me getting okay to bad battery life on my Verizon iPhone 4 running? Yeah, a lot of people have been having problems with their iPhone 4S having bad battery issues. I don't know if the iPhone 4 was also having those issues, but the iOS 5 update 5.0.1 was supposed to fix that. So, but it hasn't. So a lot of people are still having the battery issues after that update. So I'd say it's normal. I like the new YouTube. Unfortunately, I don't have a desktop device to use it on. The mobile app on Honeycomb is so much better anyway. Interesting. What do you think of the Samsung Infuse? It's a good phone. You know what? That reminds me. This is random. I'm totally jumping around. We are going to be introducing a new top smartphones ranking system thing on PhoneDog. We had that widget on the sidebar where it wasn't like, this is the sidebar, and then the widget was like this, where it was like the top 3 smartphones for each US carrier, and then the top 3 messaging phones for each US carrier, but they don't like make messaging phones anymore, so that's going to be gone. But we're going to have a new system, so it's not going to be like that anymore. It's going to be a little different. It's going to be updated a lot more often, and you guys will also be able to have input on it. It's really awesome. It's really exciting. I'm totally stoked about it, so that reminded me the Samsung Infuse, because you'll be able to see our opinions on what the best phones are on a more updated, regularly updated basis. So I think it's going to be really cool. Okay, what do you think about malware and viruses on Android? As soon as my parents heard that, they went and bought iPhones. Well, there's been a lot of talk about that. You know, the AVG app, you know, came out, and then there was like reports that, you know, don't download the AVG app. I haven't heard a whole, like, you know, widespread problems with it. So personally, if I had an Android device, I wouldn't be too worried. You know, it's just like on your computer. I mean, the chances of you getting a virus are, you know, like, they're out there, but unless you visit the wrong websites, it's not that big of a deal. And, you know, and it's like people that do visit the wrong websites and they wonder why their laptop or their computer is infested with viruses. It's like, well, stop watching that crap, okay? And then you won't have all these freaking viruses, you idiot. Sorry, that was mean, but seriously, I mean, come on. And you download all these free, it's a free 3D wallpaper, and then you have a virus. It's like, duh. Nothing is free. If something is free, there's something wrong with it, okay? Especially on the internet. Sydney, do you have a Texan accent? I don't think so. My whole life I've had people tell me that I don't sound like I'm from Texas. Every time I tell them I'm from Texas, they don't believe me. I was born and raised here, so but I don't sound like, you know, Texan the way that cowboys do, but nobody really sounds like that in Texas, except for like in little hick cities, you know, in the country towns. But it's funny because my dad has a Texan accent, but he was raised in California, but then they moved here when he was like a teenager or something, and so I guess it just really caught on to him. Why is Aaron using the rumor dog instead of the quick brown fox? I would hate to see our favorite keyboard tester go away. I don't know. I don't know. I was thinking about starting to use the rumor dog as well, just because I was like, well, I guess that's protocol now. I guess we switched to the rumor dog. The rumor dog is actually a Twitter account for Phone Dog. If you're wondering if that was like a real account or if that was just something that someone made, that's actually an official account. So if you see the rumor dog on Twitter, that's our official account, and it basically is rumors. Our Phone Dog Twitter account is where we just publish every article. We tweet about every article, but the Rumor Dog account is just kind of like, rumors and speculation, not necessarily articles, but just kind of like, hey, I heard this, What is your next projected cool feature for a cell phone? I don't know. I leave that up to the manufacturers. I've seen like pictures of like cell phones with a clear display where you can see through it, and I don't really think that's practical because then you can't see what's on the display because there's like stuff in the background. I mean, I guess it's the same as a wallpaper, but I don't know, to me it just doesn't seem as visual or as practical. Sydney, what do you think of Windows Phone 7 on iPhone video? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Will the Vibrant get ice cream sandwich? I'm not sure. Is the next version of Windows Phone named Apollo or Tango? The next version is named Tango, and then the version after that is named Apollo. Will you ever rate smartphones by call quality? We probably won't rate them by that. Like, I don't think we would have a list and say, this one has the best call quality. We list that, like, if it's, a problem or, if it's necessary to say, I had some problems with this. But we don't rate them by that just because, phones do so much more than that. It's just, there's so many other things to consider. Hold on. I might have just said something really stupid that wasn't even true. Sydney, what do you... Oh, I already read that question. Sydney. Oh, wow. Okay, so this question about battery life on the iPhone 4, did I not answer that like 5 minutes ago? Or are you somebody else asking that question? I do know that somebody is asking about the Rumor Dog. I know that we have a Twitter account for the Rumor Dog. Unless you're... Yeah, okay, so the Rumor Dog, yes, you're right. You have created that Twitter account, AJ. But we also have another Twitter account for the Rumor Dog. I'd have to find what the handle is, but anyway. Okay, have you ever reviewed a wristwatch phone? No, I have not. You did answer it. Okay, thank you. Can you make your keyboard test more interesting like Aaron's? More interesting. I talk about the keyboard. I don't know what else you want me to talk about. Sydney, what do you think of the Samsung Galaxy Note? I talked about that a couple of weeks ago. And I think it's great for a certain kind of person. For me, I tried it. They had the Galaxy Player at Best Buy. Because we don't have the Galaxy Note yet, so I haven't had like hands-on time with it. But they have the Galaxy Player 5, which also has a 5-inch display. It's slightly smaller, but it's like, it's 5-inch display. And it was like, I don't know, it was too small to be a tablet, but it was too big to be a phone. So it was just that middle ground where it's like, what do I do with it? So for me, I didn't really like it. I don't think it's practical, but I know there's certain people that are going to love it, just like the Dell Streak. There's people that had that phone, they loved it. And so I think it would be like that. Sydney, what do you think of Windows Phone 7 on iPhone video? The iPhone is running the Windows Phone 7 on the iPhone in the... Whoa, okay. Okay. The iPhone is running the Windows Phone 7 on the iPhone in the browser, and it was fully working. Okay, I'm still not entirely sure what you're saying. I'm sorry. Yeah, the link would help. Are you going to buy a Titan or keep your HT7? I'm probably not going to upgrade to the Titan. The phone that I really want is, the Galaxy Nexus for one. But the phone that I really want is the Nokia 900, we've heard rumors about that, and it's supposedly coming to the US, so I kind of want that one. Sydney, are you an online gamer? No, I play video games. I play I have NBA 2K11. I bought NBA 2K12, but I didn't like it. It was, I don't know, like the player interaction, physically, like the way that the players physically interact with the other players whenever they're running around the court. I just thought it wasn't realistic, and it was kind of annoying. So anyway, I went back to 2K11, and then Tomb Raider is probably my favorite game. I do love Tomb Raider, and I played Madden. But I love watching football, but I don't really like playing Madden because it's, like you're playing the quarterback, and it's just like so much to do, and so I'm not very good at it. And then let me see, what other games have I played? Need for Speed. I love Need for Speed. I think my favorite one was Undercover. I think that was my favorite Need for Speed. I haven't played The Run. I heard The Run wasn't that great though, so Sydney, you should make a different funny sentence each time you test the keyboard instead of just using the dog. Oh, that's what you meant. Use a different funny sentence when they test the keyboard. Everybody has their own style, so, But anyway, it is 5 o'clock, which means that we are out of time. And so I'm sorry if I missed your question or if I didn't answer it correctly or, whatever. But if I did miss your question, you can send me a message on Twitter. My screen name is phonedog_Sydney. And I don't get a chance to respond to all of the questions and messages I get, but I try to respond to some. And I guess that's it. I'll see you guys next week, same time, 5 p.m. Eastern time, here on Ustream or on YouTube if you're watching this on YouTube. But it won't be at 5 p.m. Eastern time. It'll be whenever you're watching this. I'll see you guys next week though. It'll be on Friday, and I guess that's it. So I'll see you guys later. Bye.